Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. So moving on to the last of the mortars, we have the bottom path of the Bloonicineration, the Shattering Shells, and the Signal Flare. All of these guys do a lot of useful things, so let's get right into it. So the Signal Flare is a decamo option. You will be using this guy to remove camo. It's pretty simple. That's what he does. The Shattering Shells is a support that removes the fortification. You'll see this really used on round 98 only. It will do very well there though. The Bloonicineration, on the other hand, takes the support from both of them, but also brings in a lot of late game damage, which is a pretty cool combination. So moving on to the stats. The stats for the Signal Flare are actually pretty interesting. It will decamo in a quite large radius, and its attack speed will make it fairly constant on most maps, although some maps you'll be missing like a lot of pinks. So we'll talk about that later. The Shattering Shells doesn't really do much. It technically gets a little bit more damage, but this guy doesn't really do much damage at all. It's really there just to remove the fortification, but the Bloonicineration ramps up all of the damage and leaves these flaming piles of fire on the track too, which is a kind of odd interaction, but pretty fun to play with when you check it out a bit more. I don't really use this tower a lot, but I definitely should be using it more. So the cross paths are all very simple. You want the middle cross path. However, when it comes to the tier 4 and tier 3, sometimes you don't need to buy the cross paths because they'll have the consistency without it. I will mention that in a bit. But for the tier 5, you definitely want to get the 025. So for the Shattering Shells, this guy is going to be used to, well, take away the fortification property off Moabs and BFBs, and Moabs and BFBs are significantly slower than regular Bloons, so you don't need any crosspath at all to be able to get it. Now if you're using it for the Signal Flare 2, or you just have the Signal Flare, you're probably going to want to get 023 on most maps so that it can get all the camos. Sometimes it will still miss them. So let's move on to the support. So for the Bloonicineration, you're going to want to get some support up. The other two mortars you don't. That's going to be a Berserker Brew and Overclock, but sometimes you also want Stim. If you have extra money, it will directly give more damage with more Pierce. That's because the Wall of Fire kind of has the same effect of spikes and like count drops, that kind of stuff, where when you increase the Pierce, you're also increasing the damage. So that's pretty cool. Its strengths is that it's cheap to camo, unique round 98 support, highly buffable damage, but its weakness is that it's inconsistent on some maps and it does require a full mid-game carry. And for the heroes, you can use Biker Bones or pretty much any hero. If you're using the first two, the Signal Flare and the decamo, you're using these guys as support. Your hero's not going to really have any effect on that. So let's get right into it. Our objectives are going to be getting the Sin for late game, Bloonicineration, the Shattering Shell support, and the Signal Flare decamo. So starting right into it, as I mentioned, you are going to need a full mid-game carry for this, but it also means a full early game carry. We can use that mid-game carry to help out there, but we can also have the Shattering Shells doing a little bit of something. It's very expensive and it won't be doing like much for its price at all, but at least you won't have to buy like a camo village, because you should be able to get the camo taken care of. No problem with this, especially when you have bends. If you have like one or two bends, a good loop, and 023 will be able to get camo pinks, so that's really not going to be much of any worry. But with that, we are going to need to have something that will be able to take care with pretty much everything else. So in this case, I'm just going to get a bunch of bombs, because we have Striker Jones on here with play, so let's just have some fun with bombs. Now, as bombs go, you can't really start off with bombs, so I'm going to have to get a chimp starter there. Very simple. I'll just grab a 032 Dart Monkey. That's going to be able to take care of everything just fine, no problem. And I'm going to get a Moab Mauler and a Cluster Bomb. That will be able to take care of things. We'll get that village up, get it up to primary mentoring, so I can get some free upgrade on the bombs too. Just get a few assassins and 2 recursive clusters. That should be able to take care of everything, no problems, and it's going to allow me to save up into the Blooninciration. So when we're using this guy for damage, you really do need a strong and well thought out mid-game carry, because this is going to have to do pretty much all of the work, and it's going to have to save up a decent amount of cash, that 43k, in order to be able to buy the Blooninciration with it. Start pushing along. We got that mid-game carry up. I'm going to grab another recursive cluster there later just to help out, but you can do this with a whole bunch of things. I just did this because I have Stricken Jones on play, so that will make it pretty cool and pretty fun. But you can get another like really strong complete carry. Even just something cheap, like a cheap tier 5 could work out very well. If it's a map where Ultra Juggernaut works out well, you could have Ultra Juggernaut save up into a Blooninciration, or maybe even something like Crossbow Master. If it's a single lane map, that would probably work out quite well. Or you could just have like a complex set of things like a Bads and maybe like a Dragon's Breath to help out with the balloons. That should do the trick too. So just something like that. You're really going to need all of the power, because this guy doesn't really do anything and it's expensive. The tier 5's has a pretty good price to it, but the tier 4 also has a lot of cost. You are going to be saving a little bit of money not having to get camo with it, and it's going to do like a little bit on some rounds with the fortification, but that really isn't a whole lot, to be honest, so just keep that in mind. Anyways, with the save up, we were able to get it just fine, so we got that there. And now we're going to want to alch buff this guy. You can get the stimulator, as I mentioned. It will be increasing, well, the stim increases the pierce by 1. It doesn't increase the damage, but for towers like this where it's going to place something on the track, that extra pierce gets directly equated to being damage, which is pretty cool, because the thing on the track can affect more stuff on the track and just does more damage directly. So pretty interesting interaction. That also is why the increasing the pierce with the spike factories is really good, though oddly you don't want to get stim on the spike factories, but increasing pierce with just the bee brew will help out a lot. It's kind of complicated. Alchs are weird. Yeah. We'll talk about that later in the alch episode. I'm not excited to work on that one. Anyways, for the late game, we're just going to get the support up. It will do pretty good damage to like pretty much everything, actually. It's very well balanced. I get a Moab Eliminator, because that's just going to do a lot more damage around 100, those CMGs, and everything else. Going to overclock this guy. It's going to be shooting more fire on the track, and I can use all of the abilities and all, and it just takes everything out. It's super easy, very fun to use. You can also move it around a little bit if you want. There on round 100, it didn't really use my abilities that much, so it got a little bit close, but other than that, it's good. Now for the signal flare, as you can see on all the maps, it's not that consistent. If it's harder map and it doesn't have at least 1 or 2 loops or bends, it's not going to be able to get a lot of the balloons. So you can still use this guy to really get DDTs, which you see very commonly on something like Ravine. You can also get it to take out the balloons in general and have a spike factor, at least something with camo, clean up the rest, and you'll still be able to get everything pretty consistently. But once you bring it on a map like this where things loop around, you're going to be able to decamo everything, no worries. So you can try using it out. If it doesn't work, then I guess you can resort back to your camo village. That will work out 100% of the time, but it's a pretty cool thing that you can try out if you're going to be looking to advance some of your gameplay. So let's get into the next run. We're going to be going for Sin here again, and this time we're going to be bringing it on Ancient Portal. This has a pretty big funky loop. It's not really like tight together, but the Blooninciration will still be able to do pretty well. This map would probably be better for biggest one, just because it would affect like the whole area, which would be pretty cool. You could do a pretty cool black border on this map with biggest one if you're looking for some ideas, but Blooninciration should also work just fine. So let's get right into it. I'm going to get something to start out so I can get Churchill on that tile, and Churchill goes quite insane here. Actually, a lot of heroes go insane on this damage. I forget what the other status is on it, but the damage tile is pretty huge. Same with 1-2 tree. You can put a super monkey on the damage tile and it goes like absolutely berserker. Anyways, we got that. We're gonna get that signal flare up. That's just gonna deal with all the camos pretty nice and easy, and I was AFK, so I wasn't really paying attention. I was watching your Twitch stream, but without abilities, that Churchill pretty much soloed the Moab on round 40, which honestly is kind of crazy. So I'm going to get that, and then we're going to out buff that, get a village. We're going to be doing more damage with that, and we'll get a full mid-game carry, as I mentioned before. This is going to be with a Spectre. So let's grab that Spectre, put it in the corner, so it's going to be shooting into the Bloons, out buff it. We're going to buy Spectre. So we'll have that right here, and it's just going to clear all these rounds. It has the pierce, it has the damage, no worries about that. We'll be able to get Bloonincineration with it, so we're going to be doing just fine. Now, talking about Shattering Shells a little bit more, I forgot to record a clip of that, so I'm going to mention I personally really don't like using Shattering Shells, and I think this is just because once you get a lot better at the game, you realize that you can do a lot of stuff that Shattering Shells would do for a lot cheaper. It really only makes round 98 easier. It does some stuff against 96, but for its price, like, you aren't going to be getting it to deal with 96. You're going to be getting it to defortify everything on 98. But I find that I can find solutions that are just way better than what the Shattering Shells would offer for its price. I know ISAB loves using Shattering Shells a lot, but I don't. I just think it isn't that good. However, if you aren't really know a lot about this game, and you don't know about these clever tricks, if you have a strategy that really is struggling on rounds like round 98, it's not a bad idea. You can use it. It makes things very simple, just gets rid of the fortification, so you don't have really anything complex to use it. So me personally, I pretty much never use Shattering Shells, but that doesn't mean it's bad for somebody who's trying to just make their setup a lot more simple and remove a weakness on round 98 specifically. So if that's in your case, you can use it there. Anyways, for the rest of this game, as this is going by, it's pretty much the same thing as before. We'll get some support, and Bloonincineration goes crazy, just does a bunch of damage, get something for round 100, and that's it. Very interesting tower. Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!